Welcome to Living Free in Tennessee, where we talk about building the life you choose on your terms. Today is Monday. No, it's Friday, December 8th, 2023. And this is episode 825 of Living Free in Tennessee. And it is a Homestead happenings show with the Tactical Redneck. Tactical, say hello.
Hi.
So when I sat him down at the camera, I was kind of amused because this difference in height is pretty representative of how it works around here because he's quite a bit taller than I am. And how does that work for you?
Blessing and a curse.
Yeah, like he probably gets really tired of me saying like, I need a tall person. Can you reach that down? You get that a lot from me, don't you?
It's not necessarily that. It's nice to have the height to be able to reach stuff, but it's also not fun banging your head into everything.
Oh yeah, he gets really mad about that. Um, well, with the construction project this week, I've used your shower in your cabin, and I realized that when I set that shower head almost to the top of the wall, that was not necessarily a bad decision. I didn't even know him at that time. I was just like, tall people always get shafted in showers.
You know,
Where's the shower usually hit you, like at a hotel or something?
I don't know, it's been so long since I've stayed in a hotel.
Okay.
It's been years.
What about at a military base where you've lived for years of your life?
They're actually not that bad about that.
Oh, that's good. I've talked to a lot of people where it's like it hits them right in the face or right
I
below the face.
I have been in barracks like that, but then a lot of it, it's like they designed it with the mind that they're going to have, a 7-foot dude, so they just make all of the showers like where it's basically coming down on top of your head, regardless of how tall you are.
Yeah, Letty's saying her husband tends to get hit in the neck. He's 6'7". You're 6'4".
Yeah.
Yeah, so he's a little shorter than your husband, Letty. Anyway, welcome to the live stream. Those of you who are doing this live, this is an interactive show. So if there's something you want to hear about, let us know. We did sit down and do notes together. You can probably hear by my voice I'm a little tired today. I had dog hijinks last night. I'm looking at one of them. She was actually pretty good. But I had a dog decide that she needed to wake me up to go outside, which usually means like, what does that mean? It means somebody needs to use the bathroom. So I'm like, yes, get out of this camper, go use the bathroom. And she goes out howling, woo, 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 and was barking at something in the woods and ran off and wouldn't come back, which is not out of the realm of what happens with this particular dog, is it?
It's not out of the realm of possibility with any of them. The last time this happened, I eventually got a dead possum in front of the house.
Yeah, but it doesn't happen a lot. And especially this dog at this time of year, she has very short fur and gets cold. And so she'll like go out, do doggy things. And then all of a sudden she's like, I want it, I want it, I want it. Because she's not used to the outside temperatures. She was gone for 3 hours. I couldn't sleep. I had heard our LGDs also barking a lot last night. And she ran down where they were. And I'm like, great. So if there's a coyote, this dog hates coyotes. Like she may want in on that action, but I don't know how our livestock guardian dogs are going to do with another dog. And they have met before because the LGDs came here and nobody fought. But I'm like, they are trained to kill dogs, particularly dogs that get near the sheep. And
Yeah.
they're over with the sheep. So it's not necessarily awesome. So anyway, here's what we're going to talk about today. By the way, in a live stream, welcome Jacob, Martinson family, Letty, One Step Closer, and Greenberry Grove. Good to see you today. Hope you guys are doing well. Hope you're having a good winter week on your homesteads or wherever you live. What we're going to talk about is meat. Meat.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think about meat?
I like meat.
He likes meat. That's a good thing too, because like 4 million pounds of meat have arrived.
Yeah.
More meat is arriving.
2 very large ice chests, and you couldn't close the lid on either one.
Yeah, and these are my event ice chests.
I don't know
Coolers.
If they make them bigger than that.
Yeah, they probably do. And then I'm going to talk about finances related to that. I don't actually know the take-home pounds that we got, so I'll deal with that. Are you guys hearing an echo, by the way? Like I can hear my voice echoing in my empty living room. But if I close the door, then it gets cold in here because it's freezing in here. We're also going to talk about the phrase, when we catch up on large projects. and what that means on a homestead. Before we do that, I do want to thank our two sponsors of today's show. The first one is Strong Roots Resources. Carrie Brown of Strong Roots Resources has been a supporter of the show before we had chances for sponsorship positions. And when they opened up, he was one of the first ones to sign up. He is a great partner to have on a homestead, on your small scale urban lot, like anything. He can help you create an edible landscape with a permaculture approach, keeping your goals in mind. Check him out at strongrootsresources.com. Our second sponsor of today's show is also an early adopter. Discount Mylar Bags was like, when are you adding sponsorship? When are you adding sponsorship? When are you adding sponsorship? And then I added sponsorship and they signed up and it was really cool. Just talked with Toby the other day, as a matter of fact. And it's not that they're desperate for advertising avenues. Like, they're doing great. But of course, it's always good to advertise. They just want to help our network and people who are into self-reliance, homesteading, resilience, and all of those things. One way that Toby has put together to help us is at discountmylarbags.com. He has explanations of how to store different kinds of food, recommendations on bag sizes, so you don't make the mistake of having the giant bag that you need to open up because who knows why. And then you got to close that bag again. And you're not going to use that up anytime in the next 5 years. He actually recommends having smaller bags in that situation because then you don't end up with a weird situation where too much oxygen's gotten in there and you have stuff go bad early. And anyway, he knows more about storing and storage things than I do, and I know a lot about it. So check that out, discountmylarbags.com. Also, if you want to send feedbacks or questions and you're listening to the audio of this podcast, you can do it by emailing me, Nicole at livingfreeintennessee.com, or go over to livingfreeintennessee.com and click on contact. That'll go straight to me. It is time for our first segment of today's show, Forage. This is where we talk about what we're finding on the land. We should be finding mushrooms. How's that going?
Seen a lot of mushrooms past their prime.
Yeah. Why? Why haven't you found them when they get bloomy?
Because I haven't been there when they got bloomy.
He hasn't been there when they've been bloomy, and neither have I. Usually this time of year, I'm so excited because I usually walk on the road. But this time of year, I can go up in the woods and not get chiggers and ticks as much. I'm going to throw the as much in there because the ticks actually wake up the minute it gets warm at all. So you will see ticks at this time of year, like flyby ticks, but it's it's great not to have to worry about chiggers in my waistband of my underwear, which is super uncomfortable. And so I like to hike in the woods at this time of year, and it works really well for finding mushrooms, but I have not spent any time hiking. Why? Priorities. What's our priority right now?
The half of your house, well, actually 2/3 of your house that's
all of my house is upside down. It's all upside down. So there's non-existent 2/3 of my house. And then the stuff that was in that 2/3 of the house is either in base camp's basement, under my covered areas around the house, or surrounding us right now. The level of chaos surrounding us right now. How does that help with your brain and how it works?
I'm staring at stuff that I want to just push away from me with my foot because it's like.
But if you move it, I won't know where to find it. Yeah, it's total chaos here. And we're getting close to where some of that chaos can go away, which is kind of cool. But that means that the usual things I do in the fall with my spare time have not been done. Like, all my spare time has been absorbed in doing the things I can do to get it so that we can put the kitchen back together and start and put the living room shelves back in and put the things on the living room shelves. And like, that'll be super exciting. You want to check the fire? Yeah. The other stuff, of course, at this time of year for forage is winter hardy plants. And Tactical's running out, Beth Emily, to check the fire because we couldn't enter the house for 24 hours, basically. It was more like 12, but it was really cold last night and the fire went out, and I heat with wood. And what heating with wood is like when the fire goes out, like it wasn't even going all that strong before because I didn't want it too hot while I was working on my project yesterday because I didn't want it to cure too fast because it was the floor. And what happened is the fire went out and it got really cold in here. It's not below freezing, but we're both sitting here in our down coats. He's got his head covered And Cece, my dog, is over there like in a pile of blankets, cold. And we're hoping to get it caught up so that I can do like more work on this to get it moving forward. So yeah, just sent Tactical out to deal with the fire. And hopefully in another hour or two, it'll be up and running. And then I don't know if I'll get any time on that project today. But yeah, somebody else says I'm in that place right now. My office area is Twitch inducing. My whole everything is Twitch inducing here. Like last night after doing my day, I started decluttering the camper, which had gotten cluttered because I threw a bunch of stuff in there I knew I would want while I was closed out of my house. Like I can climb in and out this window if I want to, but that's not easy. And you have to be able to open it from the outside. So it's I am ready for this project to be behind me in a major way. And I'm like, there's so much more to do, but it is to the point where I can start putting some things back together after the floor is done. Anyway, back to forage. And that little squirrel trail that we just went on, guys, is indicative of how my brain is working all the time around all of this. How about you? Yeah. So it's the same as last week. So tubers and roots are great at this time of year. And then winter hardy things like I've got mullein. I've actually still got mint that's alive, which is weird, but it's not looking very good. And then I actually start looking, so Jerusalem artichokes, those sorts of things. I start looking at what seeds I can spread around because there are seed heads on everything. We have a really nice mullein stock that I know Jenny's coming out to visit, so she's going to want to take some of those home with her. But I've got the echinacea. It took me years to get echinacea or purple coneflower to go here. And the one that finally made it was a plant that I got from Matt and Ashley. So Matt's the senior chief electric guy. And I nursed it through a whole season in my aquaponics system. It came back. I transplanted it to the hillside when Carrie helped us remodel the hillside. By remodel, I mean like literally remodel it. And that plant has now come back 2 years and it has some really big, robust seed heads. So I'm going to move some of those seed heads into the food forest over the winter. Right now, I'm just mentally cataloging it because am I going to do anything in the yard right now? No. Usually I would, not right now. The Eversols are grinding up the leaves they collected over at base camp this weekend. So we're going to give them bags because they don't use their leaves. And we're going to use all those leaves. Mm-hmm. It's going to be great. It's going to be marvelous. Yeah. It's going to be brilliant. It's going to help me grow garlic. Anyway, so that's what I'm finding on the land. Now, I'm sure I'm missing things because, as I said, I'm not up in the woods as much as I usually am. And I really hope that changes in about a week because I feel very disconnected from the land right now.
Yeah.
All he has to say is, yeah.
I mean, I don't, but I've been hammering the sheep pasture, so I'm very connected with the land.
Yeah.
With lots of holes in my hands right now.
Yeah. Speaking of community, there has been some discussion over on our MeWe group about MeWe is upgrading their system. And some people don't really like where they think that's going. And they've been saying, like, I don't know if I'm going to upgrade to this, so I may disappear. It may stop working. Guys, we have multiple communities on multiple platforms. And if there's a platform where you're like, you should be here and you're going to be active on that community, talk to me because we can always start new ones as long as I don't need to start it. Like, you guys can talk to each other wherever you want to talk to each other. And I do pop in and say hi and interact. But our two most active groups are MeWe, that's Living Free in Tennessee on MeWe, and we have a Telegram channel and a Telegram group. Now, the channel is just whenever I put something out, I put a little announcement there. And so if you don't want to have everybody's conversations about their cats or whatever, you can just follow the channel and get everything that we talk about. And if you want to have the conversations with people, go to the Telegram group. It's at LFTN community, I believe. No, it's at LFTN group, which is shorter than community. You don't have to spell out all the words or say the word. That's a really hard word for me to say. So if you're on MeWe going, Matt, I don't want to do that, head over to Telegram. Now, we also have a group on freesteading.com, which is completely organized to not expose you to all of the things that have been happening on other social networks that are ticking people off. And that's freesteading.com. Living Free in Tennessee is there. We have some interactions there, like Pack Rat, who's in this group, will talk to us there. And it's not a lot of activity, but if you end up wanting to go there and talking and are more active, I will be there more. And there's always somebody there to answer. So those are the places where you can check us out. Of course, there is a Facebook group as well. It was started because Kurt Duggar was really interested in having the group. He hasn't been as active there, and I don't see a lot of people talking back and forth on there. That can be rejuvenated as well. So there's lots of places to connect with us. If you're on one you're not liking, try another one. Our next segment is livestock. This is where we talk about the critters on the homestead. Tactical just took off because a critter started barking. And I think he was afraid it was going to set the critter that's in my house off to barking. And we were going to have lots of barking on the homestead or on the Homestead Happening show. But the dogs have been really after something in the woods. That means something's lurking around. It could be a cat. It could be an armadillo. It could be coyotes. It could be raccoons. Like, we don't know what it is. I haven't seen signs of what it might be. I'm suspecting coyotes after last night because when I let Chestnut out, I heard the coyotes and I was up most of the night last night. And in the camper, which I was in last night, I can hear a lot of the outside. We'll just put it that way. Like the rooster goes, rah, 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 and I'm like, yep, you just heard something, because he'll crow all night if he hears something. And I definitely heard coyotes out and about. I heard a lot of dog barks, and some of them were definitely our livestock guardian dogs, but I heard other dogs barking. So I'm actually wondering, could be a stray dog that's running around the woods that have our dogs all ramped up. But everybody, whenever we let them out, is like straight into the woods, boo, 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 not happy about what's going on. And I guess, that's why we keep the dogs, right? Like the house dogs are house dogs and they're my pets, but they're also an early warning device. Chestnut will actually go after things. Cece will go after smaller things. Cece likes to kill the wabbits, which are not threats. What was it?
I don't know, but that barking was the barking of come down here so I can eat your face.
Okay. We were making sure she wasn't eating the face of the mailman.
No,
what happened?
It was something. I just jabbed myself.
Oh, he jabbed himself. With what?
I don't know.
Okay. Anyway. So that's been going on. And tell him about the sheep. Like, get close to the mic. Tell him about the sheep. He's doing the introvert thing where he sits off camera a little bit.
It's because this is like the most uncomfortable chair you have.
Would you like to get a new chair in the studio?
Eventually, yes.
Okay. After. I don't want any more chairs around until that's done.
But yeah, sheep have somewhat ceased their escape attempts for the time being. The area where we're running them right now actually has a decent amount of field hay because they haven't been there in months, because it's literally the steepest part of the pasture. It's an area where, like, right now I can get the two-wheel drive four-wheeler to the top of the hill, but in the summer when the weeds grow up, it's so steep the four-wheeler doesn't have enough traction to go up the hill and push the weeds over. It's literally like, the straw that broke the camel's back. It's that steep. So I'm making a big push over there right now for the 3 paddocks that are summertime not accessible, to clear out all of the invasive trees that need to die. And I'm kind of working on the actual fence lines and 2 paths to get a 4-wheeler to the top. And that's going to require next spring probably going up there with a weed eater and beating weeds back once they start to come up, which will be a little bit of effort, but hopefully that's going to get those 3 paddocks to where we can actually use them through next summer. And then one of them, actually 2 of them, might get broken up into 3 paddocks. So that might be a total of 4 paddocks we get out of that.
I always get nervous when we have them up there, not because of how steep it is, because actually I'm not willing to ride the 4-wheeler up there. So I have to walk and it's a pain in the butt. but whatever. That's my own schizophrenia about that, or fear. It's not really schizophrenia. It's
Yeah.
I have a fear of rolling. Anyway, my other thing that I start thinking about, and as part of what was keeping me up last night, is that it feels emotionally closer to predators up there because it's right on the woods line, and behind there is hundreds of acres of nothing. So I'm always like, this is they're being exposed to the coyotes and the bears. Except for I've never seen a bear here, but bears.
Not anymore than where they are the rest of the time.
And the whole purpose of the livestock guardian dogs is to help defend the sheep against attacks. So I feel like a really hungry coyote is going to come down into the pasture, but that doesn't fix the emotional part of the sheep being way up there.
Yeah.
Also, if there's a problem, it's really hard to get to them.
Yeah. And like, it's one of those things. I'll actually take a knee when I'm petting the dogs just to give them a good, good boy, that kind of thing. And sometimes I'll sit there and just be like, yeah, I could fit probably about, I don't know, about up to here of my arm in their mouth. Like, I could just stick all the way up to their end. And it's like, yeah.
Why would you do that?
I'm not saying I would. I'm just saying that you could. Like, that much of my arm would fit in that dog's mouth.
Oh, the dog, not the sheep. I was
Yeah.
very confused.
So when you...
Like, why is he shoving his hand in the sheep?
When you think about that, it's like, the size of that dog compared to a coyote, it's like that dog could probably fit an entire coyote's head in its mouth. Like, and animals aren't stupid. Actually, some of them have more sense than people. I mean, my dog will piss on just about anything, but my dog's never taken a leak on an electric fence. I'm just saying. But, when a coyote weighs, 50 pounds and that dog weighs 150 pounds, it's like that coyote's like, no, I'm going to just go somewhere not here because, I'm outmatched by 3 times 2.
Right. And, the hungrier they get, the less respect they have for that. And hopefully we never have to have a fight. But the other thing is if they get rabies, they'll do a lot of stupid things. So, and there is rabies in our county.
Yeah.
That's, like I know somebody took their dog into the veterinarian, Dr. Little's. Dr. Little retired. I'm so sad about that. And they were like, there's no way my dog could have rabies because we keep them in a cage outside and only in the house. And they were not caught up on their rabies shots. And so they're trying to figure out what it is. Turns out it's rabies. Every vet tech who came into contact with that dog, Dr. Little, all of them had to go through the rabies treatment shots because of that. And he's like, they were either lying or a raccoon got to the dog through the fence.
Yeah.
Which is possible. So I've always kept up on our rabies shots here. That's why it was worth the effort to bring those guys into the vet, which I don't even know what we're doing next year for that.
Yeah. A lot of times when somebody says, well, that's not possible, that's probably what happened.
It's like, yeah, you're pregnant.
No.
I see all these TikTok videos about people saying they're not pregnant, and then the test is done and they're like, well, you're pregnant. And they're like, how did that happen? And they're like, we think you know how that happened. Anyway, I know, like, my best friend's daughter exists because her mother was on the pill.
Yeah.
Got sick, was given antibiotics, and they didn't tell her that when you take antibiotics, it reduces the efficacy of the pill. So the way she found out that lesson was a child that she raised is still raising. So yeah, it can happen. And you can get rabies through a fence.
Yeah.
So keep up on those rabies shots, guys. Anyway, rabbits are doing well. The babies, I was a little worried about them going into the latest cold snap. How'd that go for them?
They acted like rabbits.
Yeah. What does that mean?
They hopped around in the cage and did rabbit things.
I think they snuggled up with their moms at night.
I mean, they were snuggling together. I mean, that's what rabbits do.
Yeah. So what do we have? Like 9 down there?
I think so.
9 food rabbits?
5 and 4.
Can we give dogs food today?
Yeah.
We have rabbits in the freezer and we just process them and leave them whole, fur and everything.
They
And
actually need rabbits.
what?
I actually told them yesterday that I was going to bring them rabbits.
Okay, so he told them he's going to bring them rabbits. That's good because we have a different challenge we'll be talking about later related to the freezer. And there are a lot of rabbits in my freezer right now.
Yeah.
Finally, we cracked the rabbit code. But yeah, the LGDs eat rabbits.
Yes.
I haven't fed them to my dog because if we're going to transition to raw with my dogs, I want to transition 100% of the time with a little bit of kibble.
Yeah.
And then that means keeping the pipeline going. So, which we're not doing while the house looks like that.
No.
Okay. Tell them about the hawk.
So part of the reason I just walked out to see what Chestnut was barking at was I can't remember what I was doing. I think I was loading the 4-wheeler or something, but I was over where I could see the chickens and I heard all the chickens go nuts. And I'm like, I thought we were past this whole chicken infighting thing. And this is like, no, this is weird. This is like all of the chickens. Usually it's like 2 or 3 of them going at each other. No, this was all of the chickens. And as I look over, a hawk lands on top of the roof of the old pig barn. I see the hawk. Chestnut sees the hawk. Chestnut starts barking at the hawk. Hawk sees Chestnut and is like, I'm going to go up in this tree. Flies like, 20 feet away and lands, 30 feet up in a tree. Chestnut hit the tree like she was trying to knock it over and was just barking at this hawk, and it flew, 100 yards down the road and landed in another tree. So Chestnut ran down the driveway, down the road, up to that tree and started barking. And the hawk went somewhere not here.
Yes. It's part of our strategy. Our anti-predatory bird defense system is a phrase called bad bird, which when yelled to a dog causes it to run around and bark at the sky.
Yes.
And it's looking for the bird when we say that because it thinks we saw a bird.
Yeah.
So I try not to do that just for entertainment value, because if I do that too much, it will untrain the dog.
Yeah.
But and I'll point to like vultures that are circling up high, like the turkey vultures.
Yeah.
Just as practice, because the turkey vultures don't go after chickens, but they're a really good practice bird because they just wander around cleaning everything up, and so we see them a lot.
Yeah.
But that hawk, the other day I think it's the same hawk. I think it's been hanging around.
It might
It's
be.
probably getting ducks.
I don't think it's gotten any ducks.
Okay, well, we need to watch that. But in our spare time. Okay.
Yeah.
It was in the back behind the goat pasture area hanging out. And I was feeding the goats. Or no, I think that was when Clover kept getting out. I had just put her back and I saw the hawk and Chestnut was with me. And I was like, bad bird. And I pointed at it. And she was like, who do I got to kill? And she like ran straight back there, never saw the hawk, and it went up the holler that way.
Yeah.
So we definitely have a hawk lurking around. I should probably tell the Eversoles about that because it'll go after their chickens. But yeah, that's the best way we found to deal with the hawk attack, is to have the barky dogs that will go after them, chase them off. Because what happens, it's kind of like with the livestock guardian dogs, where they decide that it's just not worth their time to go after the birds or the food that's here that they're attracted to, and they'll go find other small game elsewhere. They'll go, hit squirrels or whatever else hawks eat when they're out, not at my house trying to go after my chickens.
Yeah. And my dog is also trained that bad birds don't necessarily mean bird. So, she's gotten a possum that was like, I think possums are suicidal. My dog busted out the door of the screened-in porch one night. Like, I thought she broke the door. And I was expecting, she's going to run, 30 yards off into the woods and start barking. No. Literally in between the cabin and the duck coop, there was a possum just strolling over to the duck coop, and like a massive fight ensued. And so I just sat there and screamed, "Bad bird, get that bad bird." And so that just encourages the behavior for the dog. And so mine, I mean, my dog's smart enough to know, like, depending on where I'm at and what I'm doing, she can gauge whether it's up there or down there, just based on my behavior.
What's up there or down there mean for the audio podcasters?
Bird or possum.
Oh, I see. Up in the sky or down on the ground. Okay. Great. So that's all we have for livestock updates. We're not getting eggs, and I think it's our fault. So we got to work on that. But we'll talk about that when we talk about Holler Neighbors and community. Grow is our next segment, and this is where we talk about what we're growing. And I have a confession about the garlic, which always goes in the week of Thanksgiving. Did it go in the week of Thanksgiving?
Nope.
Has it gone in yet?
Nope.
I'm looking at it. It's right on the other side of my desk. Is the bed ready for it to go in?
I don't know.
Yes. So it's probably a 45-minute planting project. And actually getting the leaves will make me more likely to do it. But why haven't I done it yet, Tactical?
Because your entire house is sitting on your front porch.
Yeah. No, it's not.
Well,
some of it's in my office. We have a couple close friends coming by next weekend to hang out. And it's, some people from our GSD crew. And the funny thing is that I was like, we don't have a GSD project this time. I'm like, actually, it's going to be like the old days of GSD. The original GSD projects, which is Get Shit Done, I was getting ready for my first spring workshop. And Sean Mills stopped by and he was like, what can I do to help? And I'm like, well, I feel like maybe my property should look a little nicer than it does right now. And what I had at that point was I had bought the homestead. I'd lived on it for a while. And when I moved in, it had a whole bunch of other people's, like 2 families worth of stuff was still here. And I remember I ordered a dumpster that first year and it never showed up. And so I just started sorting through it to keep the stuff that was useful. And I've identified some useful stuff along the way, but in hindsight, it would have been better to throw everything away and just get it reset. So to get ready for the spring workshop, that first one, we had to, there was socket sets and bushes. It was not just stuff in the house, stuff in the workshop. It was just, we'd whack some bushes back and you'd find stuff, or you'd find a piece of furniture. What's the latest thing you found? We're still finding stuff. I've been here 17 years and we're still finding stuff.
One of the latest things that I dug out of the ground was a hook.
That hook was really interesting.
A metal hook. But when I say metal hook, I'm talking about about this big.
This big is bigger than a beach ball, guys.
It was about that wide.
Okay, just say how wide it is. You have to use descriptive words. That's 2.5 inches.
2.5, 3 inches, and it was at least half an inch thick. I don't even know what you would use that for on a homestead. This is big enough that you could lift a cow from its belly.
That might be what it was for, was processing cows.
I have no idea.
Yeah. Anyway, so the original crew just helped us liquidate stuff. And so I like to have a gathering once a year where we don't have a project. It's my way of giving back. And this year I'm like, it's going to be it might be like the old days where we're all of Nicole's stuff is under Taj Mahal. Or if we want to have a fire under Taj Mahal, then, by the way, that's a propane fire, not an actual campfire. if we do it under Taj Mahal, or then we're gonna have to clear that stuff and put it back in the house. So we'll see. I don't know what'll really happen, but it's really interesting. But yeah, the garlic has not gotten done because of that. And welcome to the live stream, Robin and the Lazy Gardener. Good to see you. Harvest Meals is next. How much homemade food have you had in the last 7 days?
A little bit.
A little bit. There was the day that I made 2 steaks. And then some holler neighbors came over and helped us clear out.
Oh.
And you went and got Mexican food. That's the last time I saw that card, by the way. I think it's on the bar.
Probably.
Yeah. Anyway, because I bought food. Welcome, Porterhouse. Good to see you. Or Teal, or Porterhouse and Teal, depending if you're both watching. But he ate both steaks that night by himself.
Easy day.
Yeah. And then we ended up having Mexican. So we've had home cooked Chinese and Mexican food, which means I pulled the takeout button. One day I heated up pulled pork that was in my freezer, and it turned out to be pulled pork fat that nobody labeled properly. So we had cauliflower crust pizzas that night. It's been a great home cooked meals
with some small chunks of pork on
there
it.
was the occasional, like I was like, okay, I'll put those on the pizza. So, that was a fun night. And then with my floor, the way it's been, we did do Chinese takeout. That's been for 2 nights plus the meatloaf leftovers last night.
Yeah.
Last night I managed to make a salad too. That was a big deal. But I did do a pretty good lamb stew in the crock pot. Tell them about the stew. How was it?
That was good.
Why was it good?
It was homemade food.
Let me tell you what my life is like. Hey, what would you like for dinner tonight?
Food.
What kind of food?
Food.
Are you in the mood for anything?
No.
Nothing at all?
No.
Have you had any cravings lately for like something you really want?
No.
That's how that conversation goes. Have you ever told me you wanted something specific for dinner?
I'm sure I have.
No. No, the closest he ever got was earlier this week when I made the meatloaf. I was like, you're getting meatloaf. Yeah. Letty says edible food. Yeah, he would say that. It's like you know him. I was like, you're just getting meatloaf. I'm too tired because I was working on the floor. Like I'd worked all day. I was working on the floor for like an hour to get ready to be able to lay the floor. And then I was super tired. And I'm like, you're getting meatloaf. And he goes, I can make a saute if you want. And he made a saute. I think that was the closest he ever got to saying, I want something different than what you are serving.
Yeah.
Would you ever actually tell me you wanted something different if you did?
Yeah.
Yeah. Would you ever want something different?
I don't know. But it's like, I mean, to me, it's like, okay, a smoked chicken or meatloaf. I don't know. I'm going to eat 3 pounds of whichever it is. Like, it's both going to taste good. And if we do chicken today, probably later on in the week, we're going to have meatloaf. So I'm going to get to eat both either way. So, okay.
This is my life, guys. This is my life. Just saying. So the lamb stew was great. And it was nice to cook in the crock pot because, of the reasons we keep talking about. I don't need to say it a million times. Next up, infrastructure. This is where we talk about what we're building on the homestead. By the way, guys, if you have something you want us to talk about or questions, we're down to our last 2 segments. And then we're saying bye for the weekend. And we're going to tell you what we're doing this weekend. But we need a new fence charger, and we're not sure which to get. So what's different this time? So you've been pretty happy with the Premier One fence chargers, right?
Yeah, I really like them. For some reason, this has happened a couple of times where it's like everything should be functioning correctly, but there's something that's just not working correctly, and it seems like it's something with the actual fence charger. In addition to that, with the makeup of the soil there, like just with where we're at spatially, And 8 joules should be more than sufficient to do what we need to do. It is for the dogs, but not for the sheep. But with the makeup of the soil there, it just
It gets
no.
very dry, so the grounding
Yeah.
rod is not always delivering as helping us deliver as strong as a shock as we'd like.
So
That's the problem.
yeah, and I'm looking at a couple of different fence chargers right now, and it's like I really like this one, but it's DC power only, and I don't like that fact.
Why?
Because I'm limited to running it off of the battery.
Yeah, so DC power means he has to run it off the battery. However, up in the pasture, he has to run it off the battery anyway.
Yeah.
But the concept is he's had AC power. You're converting it somehow, right?
No, it's just the fence charger itself can run off of AC or
DC. So then, like, if we need to move one here, we can just move it here and plug it in.
And I've done that too.
Yeah.
Because, like, I had a problem one time with the fence charger that was over there, so I just went and got the spare fence charger and took it over there. Whereas all the other fence chargers, that's the only spot where we run off of DC. Everything else is AC. So I like to have the back and forth capability. But so anyway,
how many joules are you looking to do?
I'm running 8 right now, so I want more than 8.
More than 8. So if you guys, especially those of you in drier climates, if you have any recommendations for fence chargers you've liked, it's not a need to have, but a nice to have is 12 volt or 110. And if not, then 12 volt only. We'd love to know, because a recommendation from somebody who's had one last a long time is really helpful, and it is going to get just massacred with rain here. So I know it's weird that we get massacred with rain and need something that performs well in dry conditions, but our soil pasture is not rehabilitated enough. Soil in the pasture is not rehabilitated enough to hold moisture. Plus, it's on a steep hill, which makes that a little bit worse. We have 2 grounding rods in right now. I think a third's going in, right?
Yeah.
So, how deep are they?
8 foot.
8 feet down. So it's not like we're not trying, but we'll just keep adding grounding rods and hopefully we'll get a higher joule. And that's part of how the sheep were getting out. It just wasn't as much of a negative consequence for them. Because we've had rain, though, it is delivering a good zap right now.
Yeah.
Yeah. Most of the time. Okay. Holler, neighbors, and community. What's it like to try to keep up with things on the homestead while we have a big project going on in my house? Okay, you need to talk, not just sigh.
So this is the whole reason that I was saying to wait on the floor was when we went into this project, I had 4 paddocks set up for the sheep. So that kept them contained for a month. And, that's long past. So now it's bouncing back and forth, trying to stay ahead of the sheep and do stuff over here. So, fortunately, most of the rest of the animals are, not overwhelmingly difficult. Every now and then, I've got to lug a 50-pound bag of feed over here or over there and put the ducks to bed. But, literally the most time-consuming thing that I have is moving sheep around. So that's definitely a battle right now. And so it's, if it's not in the immediate purview of it needs to get done, it's not getting done.
Yeah, I have not been very helpful on the homestead at all. I don't feel like I've been outside except for to walk from here to the camper or here to the wood pile or here to the roasting shack since I got back from Jack's.
Yeah.
Like occasionally I do a drive-by on the chicken coop for eggs to see if there are any eggs, and there aren't.
Yeah.
That's literally what I've done. So we did sneak in a chicken processing day.
Yeah.
And the only way I got that done is he was working in my house and I was not useful in the house. And I was like, well, once I get done with roasting, I'll process 6 birds, get the scalder started while I'm roasting so that it's up to heat, and then I can get them done. And that's probably how that's going to happen again. Lots of roasting right now because Christmas coffee season, which is great. But that's what I'm juggling as well. Um, so then this morning, so at this point, both of our fully automated coffee makers are out of commission.
Yeah.
That was good timing. I need to descale mine, and I don't want to make any more coffee through it until it's descaled, because if it gets blocked up, then it will be just completely out of commission for the rest of its life. It won't have a rest of its life. It will be dead.
Yeah.
So now we're on to French press coffee. This morning I was like, Tactical, did you make French press this morning? And he was like, yeah. I'm like, care to share? Because I don't really have a setup for a French press in the camper, but I am going to get that going. That's just creature comforts right there. But it's, yeah, we're just discombobulated right now. I actually don't regret doing the floor at this same time, because what I'm doing right now is experiencing all of the pain at one time rather than little episodes of pain for the next 6 months. Because for me, until I can get things back all the way 100%, I'm not going to feel settled. And so this push on the floor, while I understand you wish we hadn't done it, I'm actually glad we did, because once it's done, like, nothing else in the house at this point is as invasive a project as that. But this morning over coffee, he said the following phrase. Here's what he said. When we catch up on the big projects on the homestead, we'll blah, 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 blah. And he talked about doing an electrical project. And all I thought to myself is, I've been here 17 years and I've never caught up on all the big projects on the homestead. So guys in the comments who have homesteads, do you think it's possible to actually catch up on all the large projects on your homestead? Or is, by very nature of how homesteads work, is there always something big to do?
Here's redneck translation of that. When I say catch up, I mean finish a couple of projects. When I say a couple of projects, I don't even know how many major projects we have going right now.
Well, the biggest one's my house. So, yeah, I'm not sure that by nature, like, once we finish a major project on the homestead, like, let's say we get this done and we get the cabin rewired so you can use it as a workshop. What's going to happen next?
I don't know.
Barn?
Maybe.
Yeah. There's always like, hey, let's do the barn or redo the barn. Or maybe it'll be like root cellar, or maybe it'll, like, what else would it be?
I don't know.
Yeah. Lots of stuff we could be doing. We got to get the glamper site set up.
Not on my priority list.
It's going to be eventually. So, yeah, I just thought it was a really cute phrase. I mean, you need to build your house.
That too.
Yeah. So I finished this floor yesterday and I was like, so you're going to want this kind of floor in your house? And what'd you say?
I don't even remember.
Yeah. He was like, actually, I think it'd be kind of good in this room or that room. And I was like, I'm going to be doing more of these floors. That's all I know. I might actually do my shower with this system. Yeah. With the microcrete. I kind of like it. The new shower we're putting in, not right now. Actually, see, I'm not finishing the little bathroom as part of this phase, because I know I can do that
eventually,
slowly over time, and there's no pressure to do it. If I had somebody sick coming into my house, then I would push to get the bathroom done so they don't have to use the clawfoot tub.
Yeah.
But right now, that's not an issue. Okay, I've got a question in from the Lazy Gardener. Do sheep test fencing as much as goats do? No. But
what sheep tend to do is look at the fence like that thing hurts. Eventually, they will get up enough motivation to decide that they don't want to be in the fence. So that the way that they test it is they run through the fence. And then once they do that, they make a determination as to whether it was worth running through the fence. So if they don't get a good zap and there's green grass on the other side, they're like, this was totally worth it. And then you go through a whole series of, like, you got to get the fence charger working or whatever, you got to get it zapping good again. And then it takes a couple of times for them to figure out that, okay, this thing is actually working now, and it's totally not worth it anymore.
Yeah, the other thing that happens with sheep is when they have babies, the little ones get out, and then a mom does not like to be separated from her babies.
Yeah.
And so that will be a pretty big drive. Hey, we've got some feedback on catching up. Greenberry Grove says, no catching up unless I could pay my way to completion. I'm not even sure there is completion on the homestead. Joel Salatin, I'd like to ask him that question and see. Because like he's always like, and then this next project we're working on. Robin says, home or homestead, there are always projects to do. Yeah, I really think there is. It's actually one of the things I like about this lifestyle is I enjoy doing these projects. I was not enjoying doing the floor yesterday by the end of the day, but I do enjoy doing these projects. And it's just part of, like, I'd rather do that than just sit and zone out on TV. And, yesterday, by the end of the day, I was pretty, like, my parts of my body hurt that I didn't know I had. Like, when you ride a horse, to stay on a horse, you don't use your feet, you squeeze it with your thighs. And so the muscles on the inside of your thighs get really sore if you haven't ridden a horse in a while. Those muscles got tapped when I was putting the floor in because I was on my hands and knees, like troweling the floor down. Anyway, K-Box says, what's the name of the flooring system? I could not find it. It's Sackcrete Microcrete is what it is. And there's not a lot of information on it. It is like the Sackcrete, Sackcrete. Their site has some information on it and they have some videos on it. But when you need to know more detailed questions, it's very hard to find. It's very, very hard to find the right sort of information because there's not a lot of information out there. And Martinson family says renovating is not homesteading. It's a different thing. That is true. But when I'm talking about big projects on the homestead, getting the home operational so that we can process food is what the whole goal of this is. And then once that is done, then we move on to barns. And so I really do think building big things on your homestead or fixing things on your homestead is part of the homesteading experience. It's, like we need to make a different barn for the goats. And I want to combine the goats with the ducks so they're all in one place, which makes my chores easier. And I want it higher up on the hill so that the concentration of poop that happens in a barn will sort of gravity feed down for better just the nitrogen that you get from that helping with fertility anyway. And that was sort of where I was going. So yes, I know that fixing my house doesn't seem like a homestead thing, and it is a renovation as well, but it's actually a repair. I was to the point where my house wasn't working anymore, and the center of homesteading for me and my role in it is very kitchen based, where I have to take the things that we're producing and turn them into things that we consume. And that's like, there's a whole thing I'm doing next year on how that process works. Cause we've had a lot of questions in about, how to turn what I grow into food that I eat. So I'm actually looking forward to that because I'm guessing you guys do a bunch of stuff that I haven't even thought of. And I'm going to start posing those questions because I want to learn more about that too. Anyway, infrastructure we've done, finances. Okay, the whole cow arrived this week. And yesterday, while I was doing the flooring, Tactical went and picked up the cow, and I had offered to pick up 2 cows. So I share a cow with a friend every year. I take half of it. And then the same farmer we get that cow from had a cancellation for a cow. And I got the whole cow from him too, which is a cow and a half. Now I've already bought half a cow from Dawn Gorham from Gorham Homestead. And that means that we now have 2.5 cows to put in freezers here, which is a little challenging. And it seems like a lot of meat for us to eat, and it is. And it's really what we have are 2 whole cows. That is more cow meat than we will eat in a year for sure. And he eats a lot of beef. So, and we're a very beef centric thing. I serve them at events, which means that it's going to go through, like I go through more than most people would because I'm cooking for 80 people and that uses a lot of beef. But I have the math back on most of the math back on the cow that he got yesterday. So he went to pick up the cow, only got 1 because he didn't realize he was picking up 2 cows under 2 different names. And it actually turned out that was good because we didn't have to do like freezer Jenga last night. And freezer Jenga is totally happening today because I'm going to go back and get the second cow. Part of what's happening is my friend I split the cow with leaves her cow in my freezer too and just comes and gets a bit at a time. I'm taking out all of her cow that's left and bringing that to her later tonight after I get the cow here to make room for that cow. But that cow I have to be really careful about keeping track of because the way we split it is it's like, a package of steaks, a package of steaks, a package of ground, a package of ground. And we just divide. And then there's like this pile of odd pieces left, right? Where there was one more roast and it wasn't an even number, or who gets the tongue this year, those sorts of questions. And then we just divide that all up. Usually most of the liver goes to Nighthawk. Mm-hmm. Oh, we can give him all the liver and that'll make space.
No.
Nighthawk, you're getting liver. I don't eat the liver, guys. I don't really like it. You like it though, don't you? No, not really. I mean, I will eat liver. It's kind of like apples. I don't like apples, but they're not bad. Liver, I don't like liver. It kind of does taste bad, but if I'm really hungry, I can eat liver. And I can taste it in things. The only way that you can hide it from me is Jack Spirko's sausage recipe. He manages at 5% to other things. He hides the liver enough for it to be hidden from me. Anyway, my whole cow that I got this year was $1,900, which seems like a lot of money, right? Does that seem like a lot of money to you?
I mean, I don't know how much meat it is.
Yeah, so it's
a lot of money up front.
It's a lot of money up front, but it's $158 a month in beef. And if you consider that he eats minimum of 3 pounds of meat per nightly meal, and he'll eat more during the day, we go through a lot. I don't have the final take home weight of what we got, but I will probably by the end of the whole weekend / into next week, because I have to divide the other cow, and in order to do that I have to reorganize the ice cream freezer. So I will have looked at what's in there, and I usually will calculate how many pounds total take home meat we get. And then in addition to that, I got all the bones, which I will not include in that weight, but I will share with you guys what that is. I can say this. Last year's cow was $1,600, so we're paying $300 more this year over last year. Last year's per pound weight was about $3 a pound, so I think we're looking at $3.50 a pound would be my guess. Which is I'm sharing this because from a budgeting standpoint, we're talking about grass-fed beef, pasture-raised beef at $3.50 a pound, whether it's ground, whether it's a steak, whether it's a roast.
Yeah.
And that's not a bad price when we see especially when we see what inflation has done to beef in particular. So yes, you can get beef that's not raised this way for cheaper, sometimes ground. But I haven't seen steaks under $3 a pound anywhere. Certainly not a good ribeye. Maybe it's possible, maybe the old stuff, but it's just, if you can put enough money by, and if you have the mechanism to manage whole animals, it actually works better on your budget from a financial standpoint. And then when the farmer, you get the healthier food, you get the healthier source. I'm saying never. We're probably not going to ever raise cows here unless he gets a bee in his bonnet to raise cows. So I always buy the cow from another farmer. But I'm really committed to sourcing as much of our food as possible from our local network. If it's not from the property. That's just a personal choice I've made. But the result of that has been some things I actually spend more on than I would at the store, like eggs. By the time I factor into taking care of the chickens, unless I was selling eggs, we're spending a lot more on eggs.
Yeah.
Especially because we're not getting eggs right now. Cow as well. It's it's going to be over $3 a pound, but I'll let you know the per pound price next week. Tori says in Spokane at this time of year, I'd leave that meat in the shed outside until I figured out freezer space. Yeah. We don't have that option.
And I'm not living in a place where you can do that.
Yeah, we could put it in the prepper pantry, but then I'd freeze my pipes. But, you know, one year we did have the cow arrive when it was below freezing, and it sat in coolers outside for the day while I was cleaning different freezers out. It's not as major of a thing as it sounds like, because I looked at the ice cream freezer last night when we put the beef in, it was dark. And I noticed, like, strategically, I put the bones in last, but I didn't see what bags he was carrying in. And I looked, and there's at least 2 big bags, maybe 3 big bags of just cow bones. So what we're doing is I'm going to get his help to put one of my stainless steel tables in the mudroom. I'm going to put 2 roasting ovens on those and plug them in. Hopefully, I don't know if the electricity will handle it. It'll handle at least one. And I'm going to start making bone broth. And if I can't do both in the mudroom, I will find another place where a roasting oven can be.
It'll work.
And that means that because I have a freezer and a fridge plugged in there right now.
Okay.
So we may need to run some extension cords, but we could actually run it from one of the kitchens right around the corner and not hit the floor. So yes, he's right. It will work. I should never doubt him when he says that, because he's usually thought through way more detail than I've thought about. So once that's done, I can that, and it doesn't take up freezer space, and that will open up probably to where I have about half that freezer available for the second cow. It's a very big freezer, guys. So a cow takes up a lot of space. We had 2 event-sized coolers, like the kinds you can get at Costco or Sam's Club, full and overflowing, although not overflowing so much that you couldn't fill them with, like, there was 1 bag. Was there 1 bag out?
1 bag fell on the way back.
1 bag fell. So that worked out pretty good. I think the only challenge with getting the whole animal is knowing how to cook some of the more or less well-known cuts. And we're going to do a show Monday about the future of the Living Free in Tennessee podcast. And one of the things that is going to come up is that we're going to put more of a focus on cooking the whole animal and a little bit more step-by-step how-to on that. It's something that, of course, we can all Google it and figure it out, but I've done it enough that I know which recipes I like, and I'll share those with you and hopefully get your recipe ideas back on that. I particularly like cow's tongue, actually. And a lot of people think that's gross, but it's one of the best cuts of meat there is. And you only get like this little bit, but it's not hard to cook. It can be delicious, and it's one of those pieces that you end up with in the bottom left-hand corner of your freezer. So that's everything for today's, guys. Thanks so much for packing a freezer. That's when we benefit from all the hours of playing Tetris. Yeah, freezer Tetris is a thing. And once I get Carly's, like, her old cow out, I'll actually have a lot more space in my personal freezer. And then I can put my personal meat in there. And then it's easier to put the cow we need to divide in a way that I can keep track of it, because I want to get the stuff that's taking my time out in the kitchen, living room, laundry room, bathroom area on that side of the house. I want to get that done before I really put time in the freezer inventory. Martinson family says it's not as good as moose tongue. Now I want to come visit you and eat moose tongue. Can we do that? Can we do that, please? I've never had moose. Let alone moose tongue.
I think we need to do a meat trade.
We need to do a meat trade. Martinson family, you want to do a meat trade? Anyway, I'm not kidding, by the way. Not kidding at all. Anyway, Tori says, I like this community as my first resource over Google. Yeah, so here's what I noticed, and it's really come clear to me on this microcrete floor, is it's harder to find how-to stuff than it used to be.
Yes.
So what I find is marketing stuff and not how-to stuff. And I think it's up to us to start getting those resources, like, together for each other, because it's like, that was the beauty of the internet, was the how-to stuff. And now it's just been like, they've tricked the algorithms, or it's not, it doesn't make money, I guess. I don't know. We're going to fix that for our community at least, and do our best, and along the way I get to learn new homesteading skills, which is my favorite. That's why it's time to make the classroom. That's our next project.
Okay.
Yeah, no, he has to build his house before we can do that. So Marissa says, show up, Nicholas. We have enough pews to go around. Excellent. Excellent to know that. She did not mean church pews with that one. She or he. I think it's a she. I don't know. Not important. Holler School. The Holler School already exists. The Holler School is going to get even more built this year. Not necessarily infrastructure wise, but just more options and a clear schedule, because that's been something that was not clear this year. Anyway, if you like the show and want to support the work we're doing here at Living Free in Tennessee, you can support us in 2 ways. What's the first way?
Holler roast.
So say that more than just a sigh like you don't like coffee.
No.
Why are you even here?
Because the coffee roast or the coffee maker's broke right now. I gotta go make another French press.
So he lives in the holler for 2 reasons. One is squash, and the second,
it's coffee.
It's coffee from hollerroast.com. The second what?
Somebody made a comment about like one of the downsides of moving remote like this is there's not a Starbucks close, and I was just like, there's a entire roastery 17 yards from my back door.
Yeah, not everybody has that on their homestead, but yeah, that's a great way to do it. Makes a great gift. The other way is to become a member. Head over to livingfreeintennessee.com to find out more. And if you go to my website and you're like, I really wish I could find X on your homepage, email me about that, because I'm about to reorganize that whole page. That's also coming soon, guys. It's about some stuff's about to go down. We'll talk about that on Monday. With that, guys, go out, make it a great week.